Thank you for tuning in to the Shikama Live Show with your host, Shikama. So I want to talk about liberals versus libertarians. So I watched a bit of a debate between a liberal and a alleged libertarian professor. I believe he actually wasn't a libertarian professor. He was simply an economics professor. But the host of the show tried to title the show, title him as a libertarian. And then all of his sycophants said, "Oh, the libertarian professor." So let's go through some of the things that they said. They said that libertarians appeal to emotion. This is actually a liberal characteristics. Libertarians are the exact opposite. They do not appeal to emotion. We clearly state what the economic status and economic data and free liberty movement states. Leave us alone. Leave the people alone. Leave the people to do as they will, right? Do not force people to give up their property. This is the Libertarian Party in a nutshell. What does the liberal, leftist, communistic, fascistic, Democrat Party say? Oh, you must be evil if you don't want to pay taxes to give to people. The poor people, the poor people. You're evil if you don't give your taxes to poor people. What? You don't want to raise taxes to help the poor people? Oh, the poor people. The Mexicans are here illegally, but you gotta raise your taxes to help pay for them because they're humans. What are these? And wait. How dare you say to a female that she has to keep her baby alive? It's her choice. It's her body. Meanwhile, the husband is going, "No, don't kill my child. No, don't kill my child." And we're saying the child is a person that should be protected by the state, by natural law. If you kill something, you have to suffer the consequences, and the liberals say, "No, it's her body. She can decide. It's her body." That's not emotional at all, is it? Is it? It's her body? So we completely circumvent the entire question of the child being alive. It is, in fact, alive. From the moment of conception, it is in fact alive. And then when you get into that debate, then they say, well, it couldn't exist outside of the mother. It couldn't exist outside of the mother, and therefore it's not alive. You know what? A virus is alive. Bacteria is alive. Let's go on. Cancer is alive. AIDS, alive. Let's name some other stuff that's alive that if you put it outside of the body, it wouldn't survive on its own. And they're trying to put off, it's called projection. It's what in psychology you call projection. You have a characteristic, but you say somebody else has that characteristic. You are projecting a characteristic or an impurity that you have onto them. Projection. Liberals are projecting. Don't fall into the emotional trap. Just by saying that libertarians are emotional, they are projecting onto the libertarians, and then the libertarians are being put into a position to say, I'm not emotional. I have no idea what you're even talking about. And then in that sort of vein, then they sort of project into the Republicans. Well, the Republicans are evil. They don't feel for anybody. But that's not Republicans, that's conservative, which is another video. Now, the next argument that they have is that libertarians are stupid. If we raise the minimum wage to $10.10, the CBO says that there will be $15 million more in economic activity. Clue phone to liberals. I don't know if you've heard this, but I believe we have a $16 trillion deficit or something ridiculous like that. What exactly is $15 million going to do? And the $15 million is a lie. Why? Because the CBO went through, tracked how many people would be immediately fired if you raise the minimum wage to $10.10 an hour, and you have employees whose productivity is worth $10 an hour. Remember, it's $10.10. You are going to be losing 10 cents. You're not in the business of losing money. You hire people and you trade them for their productivity, and in turn you pay them for that productivity, right? If they, on their best day, can only muster $10 worth of productivity, you have to fire them. Then you have to find somebody whose productivity is worth about $11 an hour. So that means the guy who you were paying $10 an hour gets fired. $9 fired. $8 fired. $7.25 fired. You have to fire all of those people, all of them. Not just the guy who was working minimum wage. You have to fire everybody in that entire scale. Now the CBO then said, okay, then we're going to project how many people they have to fire. Then we're going to calculate how long they're going to be on unemployment. And then we're going to calculate how the government tracks unemployment. Bing! We get this magical number saying that there would be an extra $15 million in the economy. 15 million with an M. So that literally means there would be no economic activity. A whole bunch of people would be fired. Do you actually believe that the unemployment rate is 6% right now? That would mean that we would be in a boom time of the 1980s. 6% unemployment headed towards 5%? Are we in a boom time of the 1980s? Are we? Liberals don't know anything about libertarians. So if somebody tells them something about libertarians, they latch onto it because they don't do any research themselves. And they believe whatever they're being told. So the idiot that has the debate with the professor of economics, and the professor of economics tells you, look, this is how economics works, and they try and argue with it. If I'm going to get a professor, I'm going to try and learn something from him, not argue with him some sort of talking points about my party, right? Because that's the intelligent thing to do. If I were to interview, like I've done a few interviews, you've seen them, I've asked a person specifically about a very specific subject, and then I asked him ad nauseum and to fully get the information out of him about that subject, and that was the interview. I didn't say, oh, I don't agree with you. I think that's wrong. And I myself haven't researched the subject myself, and I don't know anything about the subject. I can tell that the host of the show absolutely knows nothing about economics. In my brief little study into economics and finance, I know that the professor was telling the truth. He was even putting it out as in a general, not liberal, not conservative. He was putting out just general terms. And then the guy, of course, is desperate for views and entitles him as a libertarian. The professor was not a libertarian. He was a professor of economics. And a libertarian is not going to be emotional. More than likely, the libertarian is going to know much more than either party because they have to overcome their own internal objections to leaving whatever party there is, and they have to then join the Libertarian Party and understand what the Libertarian platform is. And it is not to give handouts to people. It is not to have the federal government at gunpoint force people to hand over their cattle, to hand over their land, to hand over 40% of their income annually. That is not the libertarian way. Liberals want to hand over 40%. You know what, liberals? Why don't you make like 1/4 of the United States strictly liberal, and all of you can pay 50, 60, 70% of your income to the federal government, and you can support all of us, right? How's that sound to you? Does that sound fair to you? Because that's what all the rich people are doing. Oh, you didn't know that? You believe this whole 1%, 99% thing? You believe this whole rhetoric that Obama is saying that rich people aren't paying their fair share? How can 1% or even less of the population pay 75% of the taxes and not be considered to be paying their fair share? You're stupid if you believe so. You're ignorant if you believe so. You should die. Kill yourself. I have no use for you. If you are that gullible to believe that a guy who makes $250 million, whose tax burden is at 15 to 30%, and you don't think he's paying his fair share? He's paying for you, all of your friends in college, all of them, he's paying for everybody that you know who is alive today. He's paying for his tax burden covers all of you. You're an ignorant fool. You're a goddamn fool. And you really should not be voting. You really should not be allowed to do anything in politics whatsoever, including voting. Kill yourself. Thank you for watching the Caccia Live Show.